Hey, Frozen, what's up, man? Hey, Dante, what's up, man? Happy Sunday. By the way, everyone, I was tinkering with the audio settings again, so let me know how the audio sounds, if it sounds any different, because I was trying to just get some minor annoyances corrected. Sounds crisp? All right, cool. Well, one of the things is I adjusted the some settings around the microphone, and that's what I was trying to get figured out. In fact, hang on, I gotta adjust something real quick. Turn that down a little bit. Okay, that sounds good. But this up. So part of it's on my side where I'm having to rebalance a few things, and now the output audio is actually piping through the microphone. So it lets me hear myself because I was getting a little bit too closed off to the world with these earbuds. I needed some situational awareness in my own office. It's almost time. Bone conducting headphones are getting better and better. I like those for music sometimes. Yeah, I had tried them. It's been about 6 years probably since I tried bone conduction headphones. They were all right, but I haven't tried like the latest iterations of them. All right, let's get started. All right, it's looking good. Although it's kind of funny because the way this lines up right here, the microphone and this, it makes it look like it's kind of like they interact, but they don't. It's just an artifact and it's hilarious to me. All right, what's up, guys? I sent out the message about last night's stream. I was just not gonna be in a good spot to do that. For anybody who didn't see that message, my dad unfortunately passed away this week. So I've been dealing with the fallout of all of that and trying to rifle through his bills and everything, make sure all the finances are sorted out. And thankfully, I didn't have to resort to some of my more extreme ideas, which I literally thought about putting a mythic payload on that computer so I could try to do some shenanigans with it. Luckily enough, I got some basic level access that let me just basically get into everything that he did. So I didn't have to go full hacksaw mode on my dad's own laptop. But that has been a rather intensive experience. Partially because I don't think my dad ever deleted an email in his entire life. There was like 17,000 unread emails in there. Thanks, Dante. Yeah, it wasn't entirely unexpected. So if you're not familiar with congestive heart failure, what happens is your body basically starts retaining a whole bunch of fluid. Hey, 57, what's up, brother? And that just puts a shit ton of pressure on your heart and your heart and your lungs, and it just makes it really hard to catch up. I expect the swear jar command to get used a lot tonight. But anyway, and it's not something you ever really kind of recover from. For the most part, for most people, it just gets steadily, progressively worse. That's just what happened to my dad. He had his first intake to the hospital in 2020 with that. Thankfully, before all of the lockdown bullshit happened. And then, he's been it was like 2 years before his next time he had to go in after that. And then it was 1 year, and then it was 6 months, and then it was 3 months. And this was the last time, and he didn't survive, unfortunately. And as I outlined in the post on Discord about it, I felt so damn idiotic because what I had been looking for was a phenomenon to know, basically to know like if he was going to be okay, which was called terminal lucidity. And what happens there is when somebody is basically fighting for their lives, at the end of their life, they might just make like a complete 180. They're energetic, they're talking, they're cracking jokes, they're interacting with folks, and it's like a last hurrah before they pass on. And I was looking for that, and I didn't think to look for it though until the day after it had already happened. It was so subtle, I didn't even realize it. So I felt really dumb about that. But like I said, it wasn't totally unexpected. He's in a better spot now. The hardest part has actually been having to explain a lot of their financial situation to my mother because I knew of it, and because I had been helping my dad try to fix it, but we didn't get it really fixed. Now I'm having to explain to her just what all that is, and so she's a little upset with me about it. But so basically, I flew to Chicago for work, and I stayed there for a grand total of, let me think, 18 hours, and then before I flew back. So basically, I flew there to meet some coworkers, have some drinks, eat breakfast and fly back, because that's when I had gotten the news about him. So, but while I was on the flight, I actually had some time to go through and look at some things. And I was kind of planning out how I wanted to think about the exploitation agent. Oh, 57, I did see your message. Sorry, I was trying to get that thought out before I read it. And yeah, it's been a rough few months, brother. Spec featuring Sussy. That's what I'm going to go with. 80 security featuring Sussy. That's what I'm going to say. Hey, what's up, man? I think that's how I had said it last time. But yeah, Frozen, that's been the big, you know, consolation in all this. Oh, this is the first time seeing the notes. Yeah, it's just something I draw it out by hand on the iPad. Have a good time with it. But one thing I was trying to think about while I was on the flight, I didn't think about much on the flight home, but on the flight up there, I had plenty of time to kind of think and plan and kind of examine how I wanted to put together the exploitation agent. And I had a couple ideas here. So let me start with this one. This was the first idea I had, which was doing something a little bit akin to Bloodhound, but not quite as robust. Bloodhound's a pretty robust product, right? And it's because it's working on one system, which is Active Directory. Well, then also they're adding an Azure AD to all that. But one thing I was thinking is, could we build some kind of an exploit path and then have the agent iterate over that and think, okay, cool, what's the next logical step from this exploit path? So, for example, say like, okay, the exploit path is we did a port recon, we discover a web server, we do a directory brute force. From there, we somehow identify a file upload, and that comes back to an LFI, which gives us code execution, then we hand off to Mythic. And the way I was thinking about potentially trying to build out some of the steps for that is collect write-ups from Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. We send each of those write-ups over to a language model, and they kind of basically have it boil it down for us. So we extract whatever the initial steps were to get the RCE, and then categorize the primitives after that. Hey, Plasma, thanks for coming online, man. My handwriting's kind of ass. Why don't you write in cursive like Feynman? I don't know. Probably for the same reason I don't have a Nobel Prize, because I'm not Feynman. My handwriting actually used to be really good when I was doing my math degree. Because if I wrote like this when I was doing my math stuff, I'd have been SOL. Sorely out of luck. No swear jar for that one. Feynman was a funny character, though. Yeah. So anyway, this is kind of like one way I was thinking of approaching this. Another way was thinking about something like what I called speculative tasking. So the exploit agent can create a task to explore these different paths in here. And then basically we have an exploit path stepper language call that says, hey, look at everything we know about this box, the information we've collected, and basically suggest what the next step should be and rank them from like least to most likely, or from most likely to least likely. And I'm thinking that the exploitation agent may have to have its own modified state table. I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to think about it, how I want it to function. And that is where we add in some pieces of information, either that or we maybe track this as an exploitation task in the task table, in the state table. So like I said, I haven't had a chance to work on any of the code for this, but this is all stuff I've been thinking about is how are we going to build out the exploitation agent? This part right here with the building the exploit path primitives might not even be worth it. I was thinking it might be helpful for really more complex attack paths later on down the line, where like maybe, hey, you've got to use a cross-site scripting to do an SSRF, to then do like do a lateral do a privilege escalation on the web app, things like that. I had to write something at the DMV the other day. My handwriting looked like a kindergartner's. I know, right? My handwriting is just, it's not getting flexed as much as it used to. When I was doing, like I said, when I was doing my math degree, though, you're talking like easily one problem could be like 2 pages of algebra. Got a Cisco 3560 on the way to its on the way this week. So just a few other network bits to go. Nice, man. 3560 is a good little switch, especially for learning like entry level Cisco stuff. Even for advanced Cisco like CCNP stuff, you can do it. I have a math degree. My handwriting isn't that what I don't know what you mean by a state table. Oh, so the state table. Let me pull up the code real quick. So what we have here in these agents, actually, let me show you two things. Let me pop back over here. So this is the execution workflow written in LangGraph. So what we do is between each of these nodes, there's a single object called the state table that gets passed around. Think of it as like the single book of truth. And then each of these, let's say in the recon agent here, right? So after it passes through all this, and maybe this is the Stinger agent all up here. After it passes it off over here to the start agent, right? Let me try to rearrange this a bit so it makes a little bit more sense. There we go. In fact, now that I see this, I don't think we even need the recon handoff. I think we just go straight to end. But anyway, what happens here is even between all these nodes, we could have a different state table for this agent. And when it emits its end back up to Stinger up here, what we could do is we could tell it, hey, by the way, you can emit different keys in the state table. So that's the main thing to remember though. Between each of these nodes, it's a single object called your state table that's getting passed around. And it's a typed dictionary in Python. You can have different state tables in each of these different agents. So Stinger could have a distinct one from Recon, which could have a distinct one from enumeration. After looking at everything and seeing how it was flowing, I decided that we'll just use the same state table structure for all of these. So we just call it the Stinger state. And so that's what, if you look at the code over on GitHub or even here, that's where it is right here. So this defines the shape of that structure. So it makes it nice and clean, makes it easy. I'm thinking either Stinger state is either going to have to be extended, or we'll do a little bit of shenanigans in the task structure right here, where perhaps we will just add an exploitation step to this. Like I said, this one I'm fully expecting. So recon and enumeration in their beginning iterations were going to be the easiest, but a lot of the struggle with those was building up the scaffolding around them. Now the scaffolding's in place, it might need to be made a little bit more robust, but now we've got to figure out how do we take all of this and then go get the exploitation task. So what I'm thinking about doing here is, let me go pull up try-hack real quick. Let me go ahead and deploy the machine for this lab real fast. Not unauthorized. Yes, did. All that really matters, it doesn't even show my password. What do you mean CAPTCHA failed? There we go. TryHackMe's login interface can be kind of a pain sometimes. Not sure how would the scaffolding kind of change here. It just depends on if there's functionality that we need to make the exploitation agent work that we'll have to go through and expand out on. That's what I mean. All right, start our test machine here. And then let's look at getting a shell here. So we could add this as the next task here that we want to do. No, the vulnerability doesn't change, but we haven't identified that as a potential vulnerability in here. So once we get this, it can complete this list of tasks here, right? Basically, getting the shell will be the next part, and then doing the privilege escalation. Once we get all of that kind of taken care of, the next step will be to make these tasks, back them off and keep them real general. Or like even just say, hey, by the way, there's the box, go hack it and get root it and read these two flags. So now, so the next thing we want to kind of take a look at here is, this was the steps that I had for what it actually needs to do.
So after using GoBuster, we find panel and uploads. So it should theorize, or we should tell it about the upload function existing. Find the upload function on panel, upload a test file to check where it landed, right? In theory, you'd think, as humans, we'd argue that, hey, if you upload it to the panel, it's probably going to land over an upload somewhere. Upload the web shell, bypassing restrictions, and then make a repeatable command execution. So probably what we can do here with this is we can do a post request. The hard part here, one of the things we'll have to do is then have to give it the ability to say, like, hey, let's go upload a web shell. So it'll have to read the web shell file, get a copy of it, and then send it up there. Is this proprietary code? No, man, it's up in GitHub. It's up on the GitHub right now. Let's see. Yeah, nope. It's all up on GitHub, man. You feel free to go through and dig through it. And so I usually push all the changes I made at the end of a stream as we're going through it. Occasionally I'll work on it during the week, but for the most part, I just work on it on stream. Having fun with it. Oh, 57, I just saw you snagged that 3560 for 20 pounds. Oh, nice. I mean, that is an old piece of equipment. They were getting aged out and old whenever when I took Cisco in 2010. That was 15 years ago, right? So yeah, they're pretty much just coffee table pieces now, but they still work. Yeah, man, this was not meant to be like some, super sauce secret squirrel thing. It's meant to be a fun little project. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy hacking. Part of this whole endeavor was just improving my Python skills because I actually I've been in offensive security for 7 years and I've been in IT for 15 years. So you learn a lot about scripting languages, and particularly in offensive security, reading and modifying you get very good at, but writing from scratch is a completely different ballgame. So I'm trying to get better at that ballgame. All right, let's see. So one thing I think we've got here, got to figure out how I'm going to do this. Let me look at something real fast. Let's go ahead and we'll kick on the VPN real fast. One thing we're going to need to do is, let me see what robo pages we've got in here. Let's see. We have nuclei, SQL, map, WP scan. That's what we've got in there. Did I not keep? Nerd! Shut up, baby. I know it. Hey, Dan. What's up, man? Dan, I'm hanging in there, man. By the way, I gotta say, guys, just before, as the stream was starting up, I did tweak the audio a little bit more, so let me know how it sounds. Part of that was these earbuds, they now actually route through the microphone so I can hear ambient sounds around me. It kind of trips me out at first. After I got it balanced out, it seemed to be doing all right.
Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
You're so full of crap, 57. Let's see. I guess I didn't keep that. I thought we kept the Python one, though. Oh, maybe... Okay, hold on. Maybe that's why. Right in our pages here. That's right. So we had coding and utilities as well. We'll see. What's in coding? Oh, that must have been like our Python exec YAML. Okay, so we've got that. And then in utilities, we have web. That's the one I was looking for. Let me bin the web util because I want to see something here. So we can do a curl get request. Here. That's our HTTP get request, and then we should also have an HTTP post request in here. So the parameters we need for this are the user agent and the data. Now, is this actually sending... I can't remember who said it, but it sounds crisp. Nice. Good. Well, because I had been modifying the microphone a bit, like now I can hear it myself. So good. I'm glad it's sounding a little bit sharper now. see. Is crap a swear word? I don't know, 57. What do y'all think? Can I ask a... I'm guessing that's a basic question. Yeah, man. Ask any question you'd like. Let's see. Content string, URL, content type. Okay, I guess we could have it try it and do this. One thing we could probably do is... we could either have it... Actually, I guess we can do two things. One is we could have a list of the RoboPages tools in here where it could go do that. Or actually, yeah, we just have it use RoboPages because it can either go create a Python script to be able to do the execution and then pass it to the Python, pass that Python script over, or we could have it just use the post request in there. But the thing is, we still have to give it some kind of way to get a web shell. I don't see a makefile here. Is that okay? I almost typed no, because it's in Python. You don't need a makefile. Also, the setup instructions. I apologize. I'll go through it. I will get those put together. But the setup instructions are pretty well non-existent right now since it's just a very early dev project. One of the things you will need to do is over here in the env file, you got some stuff you're going to have to go fill in. Like, for example, if you want to do Langsmith tracing, you'll have to go give it an API key. It has the Open Router API key in here as a placeholder, but it's actually not being used. Everything right now requires Anthropic. And then you also need to set up a RoboPages server. And then this right here actually can be probably taken out. It's not being used right now. This and the Open Router API key. But you do have to set up RoboPages, which is not difficult. You can set up the server in Docker real fast. And setting up the poetry environment isn't very hard. Since it's got a Pi project, you just CD over into it, use poetry, and you can make your virtual environment. All right. That's right. I was looking at this. I mean, I don't want to necessarily add a new tool in here. I did think about potentially adding a new agent in here where it could write its own. It could write its own tooling to be used, but I think that might be a bit extreme in this situation. One thing we could probably do is just let it get away with using the Python execute in here. So let's try. Let me think about how. I'm trying to think of like where to get started with this so we can let it think. We can try to keep it as basic as possible and let it just kind of pass everything around. I really thought Python would need it because I have a background in physics. You can't, now don't get me wrong, you can do a makefile for a Python project, particularly if you wanted to have like an installation, or if you're doing physics that's probably using Python, seeing it might have to go compile somebody or something for use with the project. But for most Python projects, you don't even need that. Yeah, you totally could add it. In fact, I know some projects where you have a makefile to just go build a Docker container. It's not specific for something that has to be compiled. It's just that's where you typically see it, because sometimes there's 2 pages of compiler configurations that you don't want to have to type out or try to script out. Let's see something. All right, I think let's try something. Let's see if we can think about like how to build out the most basic iteration of the exploit agent, and then maybe we can expand this out a bit. So let me go grab something real quick from TryHackMe. So find a form, upload, and get a reverse shell, and find the flag. So actually, I think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna modify this just a wee bit though. Because what I want to do is click over to Stinger agent. go ahead and take this out. Actually, no, forget that. I'll leave that there for now. Let me do one more thing here. So I'm going to add one more here. So I'm going to drop this into our basically our testing. It says, find a form to upload and get a reverse shell. Find a upload and not upload to get a reverse shell. I want to say we want to find a form to upload and get. Let's see. Remote code execution from a web shell. I'm gonna try that. We're gonna see what happens. Like a Red Hat user does to shut down 200 lines of code to power off. Need to come through and update this actually. Grab that real quick. Let's get our test box IP. We're at 222.58 now. Now, one of the things also we'll be able to do is we'll be able to do a little bit of what's called time traveling in here. We can kind of modify and save the state table a bit. I need to actually, that actually might be something that we got to do first on this. And that is go through and implement the state table changes. I'm sorry, there's something called memory checkpointers. Let's see. LangGraph memory checkpointers. Actually, let me see if I can find something. Let's see if I can find an example of this, because I'm not using the studio correctly. I know it's got a persistence layer to it. Let's see. I've been trying to read up on this, but it's not clicking right now. So LangGraph has a built-in persistence layer implemented through checkpointers. So when you compile a graph with a checkpointer, the checkpointer saves a checkpoint of the graph state at every super step, whatever a super step is. Let's see. Each sequential node is a separate super step, while partial nodes share the same super step. So what's a partial node? Anyway, so I think every time it passes between a node is when it's doing it. Let's see. So because threads allow access to the graph state after execution, several powerful capabilities, including human-in-the-loop memory, time travel, and fault tolerance, are all possible. Let's see. See this how-to guide for an example on how to add or use checkpointers to your graph. Okay. Let's start with that real fast. Let's see. Long-term memory stores user-specific application-level data across session, which is what we might kind of want here. I don't have any background in coding, only string theory. I was double majoring in math and physics, and had thought about going into research physics, but then I got engaged, and I decided to drop the physics portion of my degree so I could graduate a year earlier. So I was going to need another year of school. I was almost done with my math degree, and so I could basically start raising a family. No such thing as a dumb coder. I don't have a background in it, to be honest, but done so many different jobs before COVID things that I'm getting there with this. Yeah, man. It's just, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's all sorts of skill levels in it, just like anything else, right? Like, for example, I got folks coming in here thinking what I'm doing is really awesome, and I feel like I'm just a monkey banging on the keyboard. And then I go and watch someone like Primogen, and that dude is just flying through code. You can tell he is like one of those mythical unicorn 10x developers. Let's see. So it's saying short-term persistence tracks ongoing conversations by maintaining message history within a session. But this is actually what we want, this long-term memory. So long-term memory would be cross-thread memory. I got it. Okay. This is not what I was thinking I wanted. Let's see. So one thing I might want to do is, after we run through this, I think I want to add a quick functionality here. Let me build this up real quick. Let's see. Save state to bottom. And it takes us back to the exact same. Maybe this would be this memory saver. All right, I guess I can't go through with you right now. So checkpoint is a snapshot of the graph state saved at each super step and is represented by the state snapshot object with the following properties. So we have a config metadata values next tuple, which is a tuple of the next node names executed in the graph, and task. Maybe that's where I got the idea for this in here. All right, so in this case, they've got a state class defined, and we have two nodes, node A and node B. And then we've got an edge from A to B, and we have two nodes. So we go start, node A, node B, end. All right. So for a checkpointer, we do in-memory saver. And our configure rule is we do a config of thread ID, and we do a graph invoke. Okay. So this is actually talking more like memory on how do we store it for the agents to use. What I want to do is save the state to disk, so that way what I could do is we come spin up a new agent here. We have the exploitation agent, right? And the exploitation agent could then come through and say, okay, I could have it in the main function of there, say, hey, let me pull the state table out, and then we can just run through the exploitation task with the data we found, right? What was the time traveling stuff? Oh, so the time traveling stuff was just a term that's used in LangGraph, right? So let me see if I can find an example. Let's see. Do I have it anywhere? Let me see. That's not what back to tracing projects. Let me see if I can find a good example. Last 14. There we go. All right, so like for example, if I look at this, this is a trace of everything we did in the code base, everything that was executed. And so this is all being stored up in LangSmith. So as I'm running through this, right, it's, you notice how it takes it took a grand total of 253 seconds to complete this. So it took 4 minutes for it to go through this. The big chunk of this really was right here when it had to do a directory brute force for a tool called GoBuster. That took 180 seconds. So as we're looking through this, if I could get that down lower, that would be great, but it is what it is. Anyway, so let's say I didn't want to run GoBuster again, right? Let's say in theory we have found everything we needed to go hand off to the exploitation agent. Time traveling means, hey, we can come through in here and we'd see that same execution. We could tell it, hey, do a fork of this thread and rerun it again with some modifications. So you could come through and basically look forward and backwards in the timeline of it. Not actual tachyon style time travel. That's not what I was talking about. You go, Buster. What do you like to use, Dan? Dan, the directory bustin' man? What do you like to use then? You go, Buster. Buff for life. Tachyons aren't real. No, I'm laughing because Dan comes in. Dan comes in here and he's like, he wants to agree with Fuff. With all these fools and their fluffiness. But then Sussy comes in and is like, tachyons aren't real. And it's like Dan's agreeing about tachyons instead of Fuff. I think we actually have one for Fuff. Let me see. I thought I had a page in here for that. I think it's cybersecurity offensive. No, we had nuclei. Actually, it may be an info gathering. Let me see. Oh, actually, you know what? You're giving me an idea now. Because eventually, GoBuster will not be the required tool. It's required in this very basic example, right? Because we're following along with what it's telling us. Eventually, we'll let the agent decide and autonomously execute its own tools at its discretion. But what was I going to look? Let me look at something real quick. That's the RoboPages CLI. Actually, let me just look at here. Oof. Actually, yeah, over in information gathering, there was a FUF one in here. So I could go copy that down, and then we would have FUF be available as well. I will choose FUF like all agents. Let's see here. Actually, I tell you what, let's go ahead and pull that down. So what we'll do is we'll go to raw, and I'll just wget that. So let me cd over to that directory. Let's do a little wget, get that, and then let me go grab the Docker file too, because it's going to need it. Okay. Grab the raw of that. Same thing. That's not correct. There we go. The FUF Docker file. And in fact, so this actually brings up a really great explanation about like what RoboPages is doing in here. So we had two files here. We had a FUF AI. For some reason, that's what it's called. But if we look into this file, there's actually a definition of how the Linux container or the container should be set up. And we have an image here called FFAI, right? I don't think it actually has the full build here, though. Let me see. It doesn't. Because, for example, if we look at... that's not right. Nmap YAML. So if we could look at like the Nmap YAML, right? The containers, we actually have it build something using the Nmap Docker file. And the name is Nmap local. But over in this one, I don't actually see the build directive in here. I just see... See, the container doesn't have a build directive. Interesting. I know folks who work on it and with work on doing things like neutrino particle detectors and tachyons and bunch of bull. I like the idea of tachyons, but at the same time, I'm like, how would you ever have something that travels faster than light if you think about just the propagation of information through space and time, right? You've got to have something that can accelerate you past it. So, for example, there it is. So, for example, right, you've got, let's say you've got a car right here. And so this car has to have something that pushes it, right? So let's say, for example, we set up a big ass fan here. And so the fan is blowing air this way, right? Well, cool then. We've basically taken the fan, we've imparted energy over to it, and we're imparted that to the car. Car gets a net forward vector, right? The car can't go any faster than the air molecules are, right? So if their velocity is v0, right? This is going to be something less than v0, right? It can't get higher than this. So the single fastest thing we know about is light, right? You can't get any faster than light. So if that's the case, in this case, it's going to be something a little bit slower than it. We just can't get anything that fast to it. So you would need something that allows it to kind of break those rules to get past it. That's the way I kind of think. Sussy might come through and with his superior physics knowledge flex on me and say, here's what you messed up and you fundamentally wrong. I like the idea. Ultimately, I did drop my physics degree. It'd be really cool to... The way I've always thought about the double slit experiment agent is that the particles do travel as waves, but when that waveform collapses, all of the energy is deposited into one point. That's the way I've kind of thought about it. Then again, I only had a very basic intro to quantum mechanics. Dark matter acceleration. Oh, get out of here, dumb. I like the idea of timescapes better, actually, that because there's different distributions of matter throughout the universe, that matter is directly impacting the rate at which time is passing, and therefore it's not passing uniformly across the entire universe. Some areas, like at a black hole, right, time is passing slower, and some areas like the Boötes void, where there's not very much, it's passing much faster. I worked with Maldacena and his group on theories on information traveling across Penrose diagram of the horizon. Oh, nice. Literally writing a paper right now on numbers in curved black holes in 5+ dimensions that begin, or with Ben Griston at UCSD and his collabs. Nice, dude. I would say I want to read that paper. I would like to have an explanation of it, but honestly, I probably would not be able to grok it if I read it. I really liked that. Would have liked to go down that path. At the same time, I ultimately decided I'd rather have a family. So, yeah. I do like I said, I like the idea of tachyons. I'm a sci-fi nerd. I totally get also that, they're in like something like Star Trek, it's always like, hey, we've got some kind of new special type of radiation. It's like, okay, cool. You found a different wavelength of light, or you found something other than just a particle, or a proton and a neutron being spit out, or just an electron being kicked out of a nucleus. Like, what kind of new radiation did you find? It's all fun for me, dude. Yeah, I totally understand that tachyons are completely made up. So let me do something here. I think what I might do here is I might bust out a pickle. Pickle? We pickle? No, we can't. LangGraph. Pickle state. I'm happy. I'm unhappy and no sleep. I feel that though, man. I have not been sleeping really well this week, obviously, with all the stuff going on with my family. This was supposed to have been my first week back to work, and I was really happy. I had a coworker, so I worked with this guy for 3 years. He went to my current company where I'm at now. He's the one who referred me and got me hired. I have never met him though. I have talked to this dude so much, and we've been buddies for probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and he's a great dude. I was so excited this week because I was finally going to get to see him. This was a company-wide gathering, and he got in really late Tuesday night. He missed the intro, like the get-together reception for everybody, because his flight got massively delayed. It's a bunch of storms in the US, right? So I didn't see him Tuesday night. And I saw him for a grand total of 30 seconds in the morning. And then we sat down for like the first series of meetings and stuff. And that's when I got the call about my dad and I left. I was so excited to get to see this guy. I literally got to see him, gave him a big old bro hug, and caught up with him real fast. And then I was like, hey man, yeah, I'll catch you at the next break. And I was gone. I had to leave. It made me so sad. Let me see if I can do some. Let's see what I wanted with this. So what I'm thinking about doing is, here, let me pull this up. Oh God, what happened? It zoomed in because the wheel was still scrolling. So here's what I'm thinking about doing is I'm actually going to run through all of this again. Once this is done, I'm going to put one more node down here in Stinger. Basically says, hey, if all the states are done, then we'll go to end or whatever. I'm thinking that's what I want to do. But what I want it to do is I want to have one more node in here that basically just does a pickle. Does a pickle, basically serializes a Python object, sticks it into a file, and then over whenever we start writing the exploitation agent, we can execute just that agent and have it import that file, unpickle it, import it, and then execute on the state table. And then we'll have it running just like we had gone through and done everything else here. I think that's what I want to do. Let's see. Python, pickle, and a example. Look at this. Now you're good, Sussy, man. This is a total learning stream, by the way. So if you just want to hang out or I almost did it. I caught myself. Hang out and shoot the breeze with folks in chat, or just listen. I mean, dude, or ask questions. Feel free to, man. Especially around when it comes to security, because like I said, I've got a lot of experience with it. I like helping folks out too. Let me see. So we'll have to add the pickle to this. So all we do is just give it a file name. Do we do a pickle dump to the file? Okay. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, easy enough. So let's go over here. Let's go ahead and add pickle to this project real quick. Oh, sorry. I had my root me shell sitting up over here. Did I not have that set up? I had Mythic up. Oh, this was Secless. This was just me grabbing some stuff. Well, we'll just make another one real quick. Let me see here. So I want to CD over to Hack the Box. And then I want to do poetry. What was the command? Add. That's the word. I haven't had to add anything to this in so long. Poetry adds a pickle. What's the package we need? Poetry pickle. Okay, that was not what I wanted. What's the command we need to install this? Winners never quit. That's right, man. Dude, I love Chad B. He's such a great guy. Hey, Simbleed, what's up, man? I wrote a visualizer and harmony synchronizer which changes the beats whenever there's a context switch of the soft IRQ and processor frequency. So the next would be when 8-core processors have hardware interrupts and process 100 gigabits per second of bandwidth. I bet that makes a really awesome sound, actually. That'd be kind of cool because you'd get like almost like an auditory interpretation of when a program's executing. That'd be pretty sweet. Is it Python tac pickle? Let's see. Install pickle. What's the actual package name that we need? That's pickle 5. So let's Let's see, add pickle. What the heck is the package I need? Oh wait, pickle's a built-in module? Oh. I didn't realize that. I thought that was a maintained module. Okay, well that makes that a lot easier then. So what we can do here is, let's come over to Stinger. What I'm going to do is, we have our Stinger agent. We don't have these other things in here. Stinger agent just basically doesn't return anything. So then let's come down to here. And what we'll do is, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to make a new little function down here in this. We're going to call this, we'll call this, yeah, we'll just call it handoff. And this will take a state table of the type Stinger state. To do is, I'll use this quick example here. What we do is we want to do a pickle dump that to a file. That's not right. And it's complaining because we haven't imported this yet. Did you import that from copyright? Let me just try import pickle. Try that. Pickle.dump. For some reason it's not liking it. There we go. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to dump, what is this, our data to whatever our file is. So we'll do state, and we're going to call this, where would I put this? Stinger's over here. We're just going to dump this into pickle. So this would be like the state table at the end of the run right here. Oh, actually, I forgot. We're going to need this entire thing. So we need to open that. What we'll do is we'll just make a little bit of a modification. Hey, man, what's up, dude? So I'm working on making a little bit of a shortcut here, so that way we can test the exploitation agent without having to run everything. So what we'll do is let's make that file. There we go. And so this will be, yeah, we can just call that data pickle. What? I want something where it's back pressure for TCP and congestion start for the kernel to release it so I can get that info from the queue over the kernel socket layer. Dude, I always love the cool stuff you're working on, Sin. Why not just do a normal unit test? I haven't learned unit testing yet. This is actually something I was thinking about putting into this project, Sussy, but I kind of did for one part of this where there's a util agent here. Where was that? In utils, we wrote an integration for, here it is, for RoboPages. So RoboPages is a web server that basically runs a Docker container, and it serves up a list of all the tools we've got, and we can send API calls to it, and then it will execute those in a Docker container and send us the data back. So really cool, but there wasn't a native integration between LangGraph and RoboPages, or LangChain. So built the integration with LangChain, and it kind of does that, but it's really janky, and it's just in the main function. So, oh, one thing I need to also do is in the git ignore, I want to add a star.pickle. Okay. So pickle files will not be pushed up to GitHub when we do this. Let's see, so we open that file up. Do a pickle dump. I think that should be. Yep. Because then what we can do is we can import pickle over into the exploitation agent, and then we can say, hey, by the way, go grab data pickle, and then get this, bring this in, and then we can actually just start the execution. That's it. Give me 1 sec, guys. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Had to go run to the bathroom real quick. No, give me the pickle files. No. I can't give you the pickle, Dan. I'm a married man. Let's see. Cool. That was not what I wanted to do. Let's hop back over here. Let's go check out. No one wants your pickle. There's at least one person who does. Let's see. We're gonna return state. I'm gonna finish this off just a bit. I gotta remember how we did the routing on this. We enumerate our task, and then we set up our go-to, which is the task agent. If task status equals new. Okay. Kaiju, what's up, man? I haven't seen your beautiful name in chat in a while. Hope you're doing well. He does, Sussy. I'm being a smart aleck. Let's see. Let's see. So for here, I think we'll be good at this because the Stinger agent is very basic right now. Eventually, Stinger would handle a little bit more than this. It'll actually handle some logic of, hey, let's think about how to build out tasking. Right now, it's very simple. So I want to add something into here. Let's just do a quick check in here real fast. This, so if not go to, then all we're going to do is we're just going to return the state table. There we go. And then we'll do an else. And then we'll just bring this in a little bit. There we go. So minor modification here. Oh, right. It is expected. Hold on. Let me double check. Stinger agent. Yeah. This could return a command literal or put a Stinger state. There we go. Now it shouldn't complain. That's our expected return type. All right. I think that will work here. So basically what happens here is it looks at the task table. It says, hey, do I have any new tasks I need to address? We're going to send them over to the agent. And then it'll also set up what the current index is. GoTo gets initialized as a blank string, right? So basically if it's still a blank string, which this should work, then all it's going to do is return the state. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a... I'm going to add one more. Do that. I'm going to try something here. I'm not quite sure if this is going to break it or not. But what I'm going to do is, in the Stinger workflow, I'm going to add an edge from the Stinger agent node. And what we'll do is we're going to add that over to just the end node. I'm going to save this, see if I get an error. Okay, no errors down here. Let me see how this actually gets represented in the graph after we do this. Didn't quite like that. Oh, maybe we should make that a return command. Let's do this. How am I doing? Let me take this out. Let's return. Let me just back out all these changes I just made. Control Z for the rescue. Back all this out. Here, real quick. So what we could do is we could return another command here. We could just say is the goto equals end. I think that would work. Oh, I gotta actually change that to the actual value, not the parameterized value. So that'd be double underscore end. All right, and then now we'll see if it actually properly. There we go. Okay, cool. So we can skip past all this other stuff after. Nice. I was watching George Hotz working on diffusion with the rectified flow today. How you doing AI stuff too? I'm not working on trying to do a ton with it. This is more out of curiosity of learning out how this works. Eventually, I want this to be a long-term project where what we'll do is we'll take it and basically, as I learn new things in the future, add it into this. So eventually, I do want these agents to even have sub-agents. So there would be sub-agents for reconnaissance and enumeration. So like maybe we'll go through and we'll add an open source sub-agent in here where it goes through and it does a bunch of open source intelligence. So something with like Bbot. We can go add that into this. Actually, we could probably just add that in as another tool, but basically make it to where eventually it becomes less and less hard structured and more freeform. And for example, for the enumeration, maybe we go through and we add stuff like, hey, now you can go enumerate Azure Active Directory. You can figure out stuff about that. That's gonna be cool. Is backseating allowed for someone who knows nothing? Dude, I don't mind backseating. Because if I have a different opinion on it, I'm going to tell you, but I always like suggestions. Oh, good. I already fixed it. Well, cool. Glad that got worked out. Let's see. That should be good. Actually, I take this back. This should not be handoff. I don't want it to go to end. I want it to go to handoff. So I need to actually add that as a... How did I do that in Recon? We called it Recon handoff. So what we'll do is I need to add a new node right here. So what I'll do is I'll just copy that. So this would be... I'll call this Stinger handoff. This is just going to go to the handoff function. There we go. So what we'll do is rather than going to end, I want it to go to Stinger handoff. And then same thing up here. Boop. There we go. Because once it goes to the handoff, all that's going to do is it's going to pickle the state table, dump it to a file. We should be good. I'm envious of folks who work with machine learning stuff. They got to be rich. Not necessarily. It depends on which area you're working in. And that was an area I had thought about switching into after I had been in IT for about 6 or 7 years. Before I moved into offensive security, and now I totally don't want to. But working on the blue team side, I was getting really burned out. And a lot of it had to do with the company I was working at. So with my math degree, I thought, hey, let me go look into data science and machine learning and stuff like that. And I was fully prepared to dive into that. And I had started, but then the opportunity to move into offensive security came up, and I just went full bore into that. Red team is best team. Offense gets the glory, Dan, but defense wins the game. I'm in a physics batch, and there's folks who work in machine learning image analysis at Columbia, and they're getting postdoc offers but no job offers. Yeah. Yeah, that's the hard part right there, is that nobody's really interested in who's going to develop a new machine learning algorithm. They're really more interested in, hey, can you take this stuff and make it production ready? That's where the folks that are making like stupid money right now are. Did I save that? Let me save it. Okay, cool. So we do have the handoff. Awesome. That should be good. Offense scores more points. Yes, they do. But the whole goal is for you to score more points than the other person, right? So you need to stop them. Hence the defense. All right, let me go try something here. Let's do a quick run of this with this slightly updated version. Because if this works, then what we can do go get ourselves a new thread here and drop this in. I'm actually going to make a modifier. Use GoBuster to find hidden directories. What is the hidden directory? And I'm going to take out this last directive I just dropped in here real fast, because all I want to do is just get through that one main part. Oh, I need to take that out. There we go. All right, let's submit this. We'll let it run. So it's going to take it about 4 minutes to finish this run, but when it's done, we should hopefully see the pickle file in the end there. Offense has endless time, the game never ends. That's true, band, yeah. Listen to a guy rave about opportunities in GRC on Dave Bomble's channel. Oh yeah, Dr. Gerald from Simply Cyber. Yeah, 57. I didn't see that particular talk, but I actually only became aware of him because a good friend of the channel, Tyler Ramsby, Hack Smarter, he had been co-hosting it, so I tuned into Simply Cyber while he was co-hosting it just to go support him. He's such a super guy. Okay, so we're already over in the enum agent, but why is this stuff not propagating? Like, we should be seeing stuff go up. Let's have one thing we can do is we can come back over to the RoboPages CLI. Okay, so it's running GoBuster right now, so we can just let it cook. I had a person in the group who got a job in the Atlassian AI group, but he wanted another postdoc. Oh, gotcha. Now, every time somebody says he moved to LA, I'm always wondering, did he move to like Los Angeles or did he move to Louisiana? Because that was a joke I always used to make. When I lived in Louisiana, I told everybody I'm working in LA now. Because I just like to mess with them. I just bought Tyler's AWS course, and so far it's awesome. Oh, cool. Yeah, by the way, if you hadn't seen it, oh gosh, where is it? Hang on, I'll dig it out for y'all real fast. Unless you've got the link to it handy, Dan. Is his... Ah, here we go. Yeah, so this was Tyler Ramsby just dropped his intro to AWS course over here, and it's on Simply Cyber. So I thought this looked pretty cool. I've already got an AWS course on deck that I've already paid for, though. I need to go through. So, oh, in Louisiana, cool. Dude, when I lived in Louisiana, Sussy, I think literally my apartment was half a mile from the LIGO detector there. And I didn't even realize it for like a year. And then finally I started looking, I was like, wait a second, what is this big thing on Google Maps here? And I started zooming, I was like, holy crap, that's the LIGO detector. The AWS course that I'm going through is the one from Cloud Breach. I think it's cloudbreach.io. This is the one that I've gotten signed up for, and it's on deck. And I'm going to. They have two. They've got one for Azure Security, and they've got one for AWS. I was going to go through the Azure one first, and as part of that, go through the Azure one, and then start building some of that stuff into Hackbot, and then do the same thing for AWS side. I was so sad, sussy, because I never got to go visit it. Every time, like, just something kept coming up, and I kept putting it off till finally we moved back to Texas, and I never got to go visit the LIGO detector there. But it was just cool being so close to it. Yeah, here's cloudbreach.io. This is the one I'm on deck for. And I asked him if I could do something similar to what I did for Rasta Mouse's Red Team course, where I just streamed the lab, but they weren't cool with it, so I didn't push the issue. So unfortunately, that's something I'm gonna have to work on in off time, and then try to see about building up in a lab in a different way. I think eventually, too, one thing that we'll need to add as an agent in here is we'll have to have some kind of code execution on a Windows box, maybe even just something as simple as an SSH connection, where we could issue commands on the Windows machine to run certain tools that we want to run, like Sharpound, Rubius, things like that. Anything like that we want to be able to do. Close this stuff up. Let's see. I think that run finished. Let me see. Although I'm really surprised that... Well, we didn't get any issues here. So, cool. Let's go see if we got a pickle file. Do we have the pickle? I guess that's going to depend on where we actually executed it from. I don't see it in here. Oh wait, there it is. Data.pickle. Nice. Awesome, so we got that. So let's go ahead and... see, did I already... Yep, I already got a scaffold for the exploitation agent. Sweet. So let's go ahead and do some stuff here. So import zipicle. And let's do a little bit of that. So we'll do if name. Zoyu? I'm gonna go with that. Zoyu, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. I don't think I like that. Let's see. Check something here. It's underscore name. I knew I was missing something here. We'll set that if name equals main. Then what we'll do is you just make a copy of this data, right? Schmear. And Genevieve, Petey, thanks for coming online. Welcome in, y'all. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Sunday. All right, so we'll make a copy of this for the exploitation agent, and we're just going to copy this code. And what we're going to do is we're going to change that to a read. And then rather than dumping this, where is my web browser? There we go. We're going to change the loaded data here to... Awesome. So hopefully what we should be able to do is just load this data up and then let the exploitation agent kind of go ham on it. Yeah, the CloudBreach one is pretty expensive. But one thing that's good about it is I have a professional development budget I can use every year. And because I joined so late in the year, I had to choose something to kind of use it on real fast. And Cloud Breach allows you to start whenever you want to. So that's why I picked that, because then I could save it. Now, of course, I'm getting into June when I had anticipated starting it. So I probably actually should get on that. What if I can write that off as a business expense? Do it, man. How do I do this? Reading chat and fixing code? Yeah. Well, because I've been doing it for like a year now. And so you just kind of get used to it. When I was first streaming, I was streaming for, gosh, what was it? I was streaming like 6 days a week. So, and for 3, 4, 5 hours a night sometimes, usually about 3 hours. And so I just had a lot of repetition into it, man. All right. Actually, I don't know if I want to do this in the main function here. I think what I do is, I'm going to take, actually, I'll leave that there for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just define something real quick. So what we'll do is we'll define, I'm going to call this load data for now. So we'll call this is going to be state, and it's going to be a stinger state file. And then what we'll do is it's going to take in the state table. We're going to use this. And then rather than dump, that function we need to use load. So we'll do load and reload. Oops, take that back. Take this out. So we're going to load file up here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say state is now going to be equal to pickle load file. And then now all we should have to do is just return the state. Oh. So typically when we take in this state table, we just have to return whatever keys we've modified. So we get a local copy of it. So it's not being passed by reference, it's being passed by copy. So we have a local copy of it, we can make modifications to it, and we can just basically emit or return the changes to the state table. In this case, I'm expecting it to take in a blank state table and then come through and basically populate it from the pickle file. I have no idea this is going to work, but we're going to test it out. We're going to try it. Let's see here. In fact, let's just do this real quick. Let's do exploit work. It's going to equal. I got to remember how to build this graph. What is it? State graph, stinger state. Yep. So all we're doing is we're giving it what the shape of that data is going to be. And then we got to import state graph here. Yep. I wonder how fast you can code. It takes me a week to fix code and a couple of months to write from scratch. But it's like I said, it's just a little bit of practice in here. And a lot of what I do is I don't remember the code super great. So what I do is I'm doing a lot of copying, pasting, and just scaffolding stuff up real fast. Not vibe coding, but that is what I'm doing. All right, let's see here. Yeah, so what we're doing is we saved the state after it finished this run here. So if I come back and I look at it, it's essentially the same as what happened. Like I said, I don't want to wait just to be able to test this new agent. I don't want to have to go wait for it to run for 4 to 5 minutes just to get to the exploitation agent and then break. So instead, what I'm doing is basically populating the state table from that pickle file, letting it do its thing. Go ahead and take this out right here. And then let me think about, so I want it to load the data, and then I want it to check the task that it has. Let's go ahead and add that as a node. So what we'll do is we will do exploit workflow. We're going to add an edge from start to, oops, I got this as load date instead of load. I'm gonna call this load pickle, so I remember exactly what it's doing. Load the pickle, and then this will be we'll just call it load pickle. We'll take this out a little bit later. So I do this a little bit differently from like usually how it's displayed. Notice how I've added an edge here. So the start node is kind of implied. But I add the edges first because that's typically how you read it, right? So you have a start node as the beginning of all these graphs. So I go from start to pickle and then define the node. And it explains better if you look at it this way. So if I come over to the recon graph here, right? Kind of rearrange this a bit because it's a bit ugly. Okay. So think about it this way. You go from start, it's like, okay, cool. I have an edge from start to recon agent. We define the node, and then from recon agent, I've got an edge from here to the tool node, define the tool node. So actually I do edges and then nodes. It just makes it a little bit mentally simpler to kind of traverse the graph in your head when you do this. So now what I'll do is I'll add a node here, and I'll say this node is going to be called load pickle. And then all we do is we tell it what function we've defined that's going to take this in. So this will be the load underscore pickle function right there. I think what I want to do next is we'll add... I do want to do that, but then I want to just see what it's doing. So it's just returning the state here. I'm just going to comment that out for now. I don't really need that function. I guess I could, actually. Oh, hey guys, hang on 1 second. I'll be right back. Hey guys, I'm going to run a long ad break because I got to go get the door. Somebody's here. So grab some water and stretch your legs, then we'll keep back up in 3 minutes. Hey guys, I'm back. Hey, combo. Alright, we'll let the ad break finish up. That was my nephew coming by to pick up something, so I had to go get the door. Hey, Peaches. Who's your good girl? Come here, Peaches. Come here. Come here. Come here. Good girl. Come here. Here we go. This is Peaches, by the way. Here. Looks kind of like Rubble from Paw Patrol. No, don't lick my face. Who's your good girl? Oh, who's your... Yeah, shoot. Her favorite place in the whole house is under my desk because it's the warmest place in the house. It's like her own personal little sauna. Hey, what is that? That's the wrong button. All right, let's finish this up. See what we're doing. Hold on. My earbuds are all crisscrossed. There we go. Let's see here. So yes, hopefully what should happen here, if this runs correctly, is when we load up this graph, it loads up from the start, goes to load pickle, and then load pickle should just load that state table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this real fast. And then what I'm going to try to do is, let's hop back over to here. Oh, we haven't added this. I forgot. This isn't showing up in the studio yet because we haven't added that graph. So let's come over here. We need to actually go add the graph to Stinger so it knows how to route to it. So we'll comment this out right here. And then comment that out. I believe that should fix it. Oh, except it's saying it doesn't have exploit graph. Oh, it's because we didn't compile the graph. Duh. So see how these get imported over here? We haven't compiled the graph on here. So what we need to do is do what was the naming convention we used? Exploit underscore graph. So exploit graph, and what this will do, I believe this is, we do exploit workflow dot compile. I don't think we have to pass anything special over to that. Let me close that. Let me double check in the recon. Make sure I did this the same. Yep. So we define the workflow and then we just do compile to get the graph. All right, perfect. So we got our exploit graph, y'all. We come over to Stinger. We should now just be able to go import. There we go. Excellent. I feel like this won't work. Let's see, I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong too. I'm thinking it will work, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the state table. I'm hoping it's just a dirty hack to bypass a lot of the initialization that we need to do. Linux developer, what's up, brother? Happy Sunday. Linux dev is a pretty smart dude. Yeah. Hello, he's good peoples. All right, let's see if this shows up here now. Let me go back over to Stinger. Okay, so actually, exploit is showing up, but one thing we need to do is we actually got to come back over here to our studio config, and we need to add that here. So what we'll do is we need to go add this. So this will be exploit, and this is going to be the exploit agent. And this is going to be our exploit graph. There you go. And I believe after I change that, I think I might have to go reload the server. Let me try refreshing this. Yeah. So let me come down here. We'll reload the LangGraph dev config. That's that. And then let's see if it actually came correctly. Oh, I think I remember. I don't think I added that correctly up here. Yep. So I got to add exploit to this list. That's another area I've got to do this. I don't know why I copied that. So do exploit. There we go. There you go. Now, for some reason, it's counting exploit as just a like single graph. Probably because it's just what it's got in here. Like if we go over to exploit, it's literally just start, load, pickle, end. There's nothing to it. I think that's why it's showing it as not like a multi-node layer. It's showing it almost like as a single one in here. But that's fine. Pardon me if you said anything, my internet connection dropped. I just said, hey man, I hope you're having a good Sunday. All right, so what I want to try to do is I'm going to come over to the exploit graph here. And in theory, what should happen is if I run this, it should just load the pickle, not do anything else, and then we can see what the input-output state is. Oh, it looked like it worked. Awesome. All right, I feel like this is a dirty hack, but you know what? It works. So if we look at load pickle, right? What's our input? Nothing, right? We took in a nothing state table, blank list of messages, and then output was, hey, we did all this stuff. Nice. Nice. So what we could do is we could sit there and run through, and whenever we restart the box, we could repickle it. So it'd have updated IP addresses and things like that, and would be good. Okay, cool. It worked better than I had expected. I was very cautiously optimistic. All right, so now let's do something here. I kind of want to do one more run with this. I'm going to do something here. And gosh, it's painful because it takes like 5 minutes to run through there. I suppose we always could go restart it and let it try it with Fuff. I'm curious about this. Let's try something here real quick. So let's come back over to Stinger. One thing that's cool is I can paste all this in, except not like that. There we go. We'll drop this in, and then what's cool is I can do view rendered, and now I can see like all the various information in here, like what we've got. So, which in the beginning, all we need is this list of things, right? So I can make modifications here. I'm gonna make a change here. Use a directory brute force to find hidden directories. What are the hidden directories? I'm going to make a modification here, but to do this, I'm going to come over to Robo Pages. I'm going to kill it real fast. What did I do the W again? Was it web exploitation? Let me see. I think it was cybersecurity. Actually, I take that back. I believe it was. I think Fuff was in here. Yeah, there it is. So the Fuff YAML doesn't have in here, but we do have a Fuff Docker file in here, which is kind of interesting. I'm glad that's, dude, like I said, this is a total learning stream too. When I say AMA, I mean it. If you've got questions about anything on what's being done or why, or just, heck, even a project you're working on. In fact, Sin is always asking stuff, and I'm like, bro, you are way outside my wheelhouse. Security is a very large umbrella, and there's people that specialize in all sorts of areas. I do like hearing what Sin tells me about, though, because I think it's freaking sweet. I wish I understood a little bit better. At the same time, I realize I've got limited time resources. I got to spend them where I think it's the most efficient. I waited over 2 hours for a Nellen transform. Yeah, I know, but when you're on when you're doing something on a live stream, 3 minutes of just sitting there waiting for it to twiddle its thumbs can seem like an eternity, man. Let's see. Oh, by the way, on the good side is also I just recently found some new music I can throw into the mix So I've got hopefully some new additional stuff in that I can put into the background music too. I think I might have to go build this Docker container. Let me look at something because I want to give it the option to use FUF. Yeah, let me look at something. Where is? Here we go. So for what functions we have defined here, we have a default scan. Perform default fuzzing scan against the target. So parameters, we have a target, which is an example URL. And then that's it. And then we can do a full scan. Perform a comprehensive fuzzing with AI analytics. So we need a target parameter. We need a word list. We need threads. And there's actually a way we kind of mess with this a bit, like what word list to use. Docker build your mom. But yes, happy Mother's Day to everyone. If you happen to be one, or if you have not remembered to wish your mother a happy Mother's Day, go do that. Hard day for my mom today. Let me think of this. Handling the word list has already presented a bit of a challenge in here and how we're doing this. And how we've been handling these current working directories. Let me see something. How did I handle that with GoBuster? I believe I hard-coded that for the word list. I did. Yeah, that's what I had done. Data word list web raft. Okay. Or data word list web. That's where we had it. And the reason for this was because in the GoBuster, we have this volume set here. My mom of three, just relaxing before Monday. I saw the funniest video. My wife didn't think it was funny, but it's like, hey, remember, mom should have a day off with the cooking and cleaning for Mother's Day. So make sure she gets all that done Saturday night so she can have a day off. My wife was like, no, I'll murder you. Let's see. All right, so one thing I need to do is I need to change the volumes. We'll do robo pages data on that. So let's tell you what, let's split this. That's not what I'm gonna do. There we go. So let's go modify that. We don't have that. So what was our... Come on. Let me quit out of this. Let me go get that down. So let's cd to this directory here. Fast. And then what we do is we're going to vim the buff YAML. And vim GoBuster. So one thing I want to do is come down here. I'm going to change the volumes. Which sucks is I think I have to change the volumes on both of these. Yeah, that's fine. What we'll do is we'll change this. So this will be robo pages /data. Take that out. Make a copy of that. And what we'll do is we will just... What's our other volumes here? So they can just... Now. Undo. This is not what I wanted to do. My Vim skills are failing me. That's fine. We'll just type it in. Robo pages. Data. That'll be our data thing. And then one thing I want to do is change this. So this raft small directories, I want to change this down. Yeah, see how it's got like this default word list that it's using? That might be a better way to do this. Yeah, we'll just fix this up. So data, word list, web. And it'll be the word list. And I'm going to try setting the default value up here. Let me zoom in on this one. There we go. It's our default here. So what is this going to be? This is going to be raft small directories txt. Set that. I think we're good on that. We only have two options here. We have default and full scan. I wanted to kind of give it that option here. I'm hoping it will do that. Where says that? Now you're making minor changes. What's the purpose? So this YAML file defines how we're actually going to execute this tool. So I'm adding a new tool in, and I'm changing the directives on it. So the previously the directive here. Where was that? Here. So previously our directive here was specifically to use GoBuster, which is a specific tool to do this. I've made it more generic. I said use a directory brute force to find hidden directories and then tell me what those hidden directories are. Find a form to upload and get remote code execution from a web shell. This is the next one here where I'm going to have to kind of modify this a tiny bit. Yeah. So I'm adding it another tool where it can do that because everybody in here seems to be fuff pools. So I'm like, all right, cool. We'll throw it in there and we'll see if the language model wants to pick fuff. Eventually, so right now this is like a pretty like tight-knit list of tasks that it's going to complete, right? Eventually, it will go through and build its own list of tasks based on what it sees. So first I'm going to say, hey, I don't know anything about the target. Let me scan for open ports. Okay, cool. Well, let's do some enumeration on port 80. Let's see what's running on 22. Verify that it, really is SSH. And then, okay, cool. So perhaps we can do an infiltration on the web server, which a lot of these are typically. You run across a hack the box. Most of them, I'd say probably 80% are some kind of web exploit. Yeah, we need to echo port 23. Dang it, I got to get all those sounds too. I still have the list of all stuff I got to do for the stream. I got t-shirt ideas, mythic ideas, stuff to add to the stream, and soundboard ideas that I need to go add. Yeah, and that's why, because I'm modifying it so it will work in here. And so the image is going to be fuff AI. So what I'm going to need to do is go build that image in here. We're going to see if it works. Oh, X. That's what I actually wanted to do. So let's do Docker build. I think it's FFUFAI was the image it needed. I think I'll check that real quick. Yes, the image name should be FFUFAI. I think that should be it. And then the one we want to build. Crap, I gotta remember what the command is. Let's see. Build options path. Yeah. Should just be that. Hey, there was stuff out. So Docker build tact ffufai. This should be ff. You're killing me, Smalls. What was the name of the file? Oh, so it was just ffuf Docker right here. Let me do this again. Docker build tffufai, and it should be just that Docker file. What do you mean it's not found? I forget what that is. Docker build specify Docker file. What is that command? Oh, you got to go to tac F. That's what it is. I'm using BuildX. Missing something here. Where is the... Oh, so Docker build got alias to Docker BuildX. I see. Oh, I think I realized what I'm doing wrong. I believe actually we need to add that extra dot there at the end. There we go. That extra dot told it where to start looking for the file, if I remember correctly. Typically, I would just build this because I have a single Docker file, not multiple. And so I forgot the syntax. I blanked out on it. So what it's doing now is it's using that ffufai Docker file to build the container. It should tag it as that. And then if we need to go run fuff, it should have the correct Docker container now. We'll let that run real fast. And then once it's done, we'll go restart the RoboPages server. Just gotta chill, let it compile real quick. So what should happen here is in the new, that actually built pretty fast. Once it hits this final one, it should go through and say, hey, what is, it should assign this to the exploitation agent now that we've got one. Oh, let me go double check something. Let's go to our prompts. Let's see, where is our task answer? Ah, okay, cool, we do have it. So exploit attempts to actively breach the target by leveraging vulnerabilities or weaknesses. I'm going to add a little bit of extra verbiage in there. Detecting and leveraging those vulnerabilities and weaknesses. So we're going to get ideas from enum and recon on where those live, but the exploitation agent's really going to be the one that finds it. All right. Oh, you know what I got to do? I got to turn back on the server. It's up and working. I don't want to exit out of this. I'm going to exit this one. There we go. Clean this up just a wee bit. And then let's try running this real quick. See what happens. I gotta refresh this and see what's going on. Because it's not rendering correctly for some reason. Oh, explication failed for some reason. It didn't like that. So let's just go down here. Let me kill the LangGraph server. I'm going to restart it real quick. Right. So if we get that pop-up, that means it worked. Unfortunately, I did not save this. Do a view raw. Then we'll do rendered, and I'm going to modify this real quick. So rather than using GoBuster, yeah, use a directory brute force to find hidden directories. What is the hidden directory? Find a form to upload and get remote code execution web shell. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to view raw, copy this out. I'm going to update it over here. And I'm going to recomment this. I'll copy it. There we go. All right. So now, hopefully, there we go. Now it's actually streaming the data correctly. Nice. All right, so it's building the task list real fast. It's over in Recon Agent. Let's go take a look at that task list. So our fourth one is assigned to exploit. We should see it doing an in-map scan right now. See, Docker run. Yep. There it is, in-map local. Awesome. What's the terminal that I like? I use iTerm. I pretty much use tmux for everything. This tool right here is called Royal TS, and I really like it. It has been super handy. Well, there's two versions. There's Royal TSX for Mac. I have a license for that too for my Mac. But basically, Royal TS is a really cool tool. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I really should be, though, because I keep pimping out their stuff. It's just very handy for managing connections to things. The biggest thing that it does is it's very simple to go define a jump server as like an SSH connection and then have it basically auto pivot and auto traverse things for you. So you don't have to do a ton of tunnel management. It kind of handles it for you automatically. So, hey, Lopto, what's up, man? More of an X-term man myself, or UX term. I understand, man. I don't know where I even saw Royal, and I just really started liking it and then really got into it. So I enjoy the heck out of it. Like, for example, this right here, it spins up my Ludus connection. Actually, there we go. So I can have my tmux sessions here. It just restarts my SSH connections. I can store my private keys.
I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Frozen. Bad Frozen. But like even this right here, this is an embedded website. So it's the Proxmox management interface. This is an embedded web page right here. So it's doing the Chasm VNC remote desktop connection to the dev system that's running in Ludus. So yeah, I really like it. And especially since a lot of times whenever I'm working in, when I'm doing like an active penetration test or anything like that, one thing I've got to do is have it, I have to connect to a lot of systems and I have to do a lot of tunneling. So Royal makes it very simple to do that tunneling. All right, let's see how it wanted to do this. For some reason, enum, actually, hang on. What was our tool call here that it wanted to do? Okay, so it chose to use GoBuster for the directory brute force because it's literally called directory brute force. It probably just did like a very simple lane match against it. I was hoping it would do FUF, but whatevs. Yeah, no, Royal TS is really cool. I like that. I like it. I like it so much. I buy a license to use for work and I buy a license to use for home. Because once you get it configured, it makes like tunneling and doing stuff really awesome. Don't look sad, Lopto. It's a happy Sunday. This is a happy day. me see here. So this should be still running. It's okay. It's doing GoBuster. We gotta let it just sit. It's 2 minutes ago. Every time we've run GoBuster in the past, the GoBuster execution takes like 180 seconds. So it's about 2/3 of the way done. This is actually one of the coolest things I like about Langsmith is I get this kind of analytics. Like I can see where's the bottleneck. GoBuster is the one that's taking the longest. And like if I come up here, right, doing the initializer, it takes 5 seconds for it to build out the task list. Once it gets to the recon agent, the output formatter can be kind of chunky, especially on this one because it's outputting, it's formatting nmap XML, so it's got a lot to kind of parse through when it does that. But you can see a lot of these other calls are very quick whenever it goes through these until we hit GoBuster. Oh, in fact, actually, it looks like it hit. Oh wait, this was the old trace. This is not our current trace right here. This one actually looks like it finished. Let me go. Let's go look at the trace for this one. So in this trace, let's see. We should see it hit the exploit agent. It goes to load pickle. Awesome. Now, actually, where did I just realized something real quick. In Stinger, where did I actually do the pickle? In here. Oh, so when it goes to handoff in here. But it did hit that, so awesome. All this pickle talk today. I know, right? One thing we could also do is, rather than having the handoff save the pickle, which is kind of something that we'd want to do. And but I said, all the pickle is doing is it's saving basically a copy of the memory structure of the state table and throwing it onto disk. And it's doing it in such a way that we can literally just bring it right back out, put it back into memory, and work with it as if we never lost it. So very cool tool. But one of the reasons why Dan said he wants the pickle, giggity, is because pickles are notorious that if you do not investigate what's in them, it could be a big problem. So I don't want somebody accidentally committing a malicious pickle or purposefully committing a malicious pickle. And also, I don't want to accidentally go in. So that's why I put the pickles in the git ignore. Because it's really easy to go through and backdoor those. Handing off the pickle, that's right. Now, one thing we could do actually is, rather than this being in handoff here, we actually could put this pickle function, now that I think about it, we could throw it up here just into the Stinger agent before the return statement. Nerd! Hey, bro. Frozen.
Shut up, baby. I'm that way.
Yeah, a pickle is serialized data. So, like, let me see if I can look at something. See if I can give you an example real fast here. That's not what I think I want it for. There we go. So, like, if I look at the file type for data.pickle, it just comes back as data. And if I even look at the head of it, right, it just comes back as all sorts of weird gobbledygook, right? So what it's doing is it's taking that data structure and putting it into a binary format, basically taking the binary format from memory, putting it onto disk, and then now we've got an object from the program file saved. We can take that, then read it from the disk, throw it back into memory as a variable, which is what we do here. So in the exploitation agent, all it does is basically say, hey, go load the data.pickle file, make that the state table, which is like our book of truth that we pass around to all these different nodes, and then return that. So it's completely wiping it out and loading it up right there. So we could always go do something else right here. It's like we can do a quick check that if we already have the pickle loaded, But the reason why I did this is because over here in the LangGraph Studio is I can come through and rather than running the entire agent chain where it has to go through recon and enumeration, I can actually just come right to the exploitation graph. And as we make modifications to it, I can run it because the first thing it's going to do is load the pickle. That sounds awful. It is awful. It's terrible. And there's lots of security problems with loading pickle files. Anytime you're loading serialized data and not sanitizing it, that's very bad. And I'm definitely not sanitizing it, going or bringing it back. These are unsanitized pickles. They're unsanitary. Yep. Yes, pickles lead to forking, band. Let's see. I mean, one thing I could do actually is just for sanity's sake is I could say, hey, by the way, don't look this up in here. They can be dangerous if you eat too much of them. That's true. That's true. I remember one time after we went out to an ATV race, I was just super dehydrated. And my father-in-law, who's a master plumber, he was like, here, just drink some pickle juice. And I was like, dude, I hadn't drank pickle juice since I was a kid, probably running around all summer. I probably could use the electrolytes. So we had a little jar of pickle juice. I just chugged some of it down. Bro, I was pulling a Jackson Pollock on that toilet later. It was wrecking me. Hey, Bobby, what's up, man? Stinger's actually coming along. We're getting ready to work on the exploitation agent, but I needed a quick and dirty hack to where we didn't have to run through the entire exploit chain. So what we did is we got a little thing called a pickle that's loaded up and running. In fact, I think I want to do this slightly differently. I don't think I want to do this in the handoff. I mean, I kind of do. But I think what I want to do is actually take this. I'm going to leave it in here for now. But I'm going to do this real quick also. And that is, I'm going to... Before we do any of these returns, it's going to update the pickle file in here. Is that really what I want to do? Let me think about this. I don't know, actually. I'm trying to debate on this. Jay Diego, what's up, man? Thanks for coming online. This actually kind of works. I'm going to leave it as it is for now with this handoff function right here. And the reason is because if I ever want to get this pickle data back and we just do an initial run on it, I can take out from the test data, I can just take out the last directive that says, hey, go do an exploit on this. So now what I'm thinking about doing is let's actually do something in the exploit agent here. Let's go just ask the language model and get some ideas out of this. Let's see. So here in the exploitation agent, we load our pickle up. One thing we're gonna need to do, let me look at the recon agent, because what I want to do is have it come through and figure out its task here. So let's go ahead and define the exploitation agent. So we'll call this exploit agent. And I cannot type, crap. This will be our state, and that's going to be another stinger state. I keep wanting to make it stringer state. Ew, AI. Yeah. Well, because we're trying to see if I can intelligently have an AI system, not just play like hack the box and stuff. Yeah, a lot of people have done this. We're like, okay, I'm going to ask the language model what it's doing. I'm going to plug it into Chat GPT or things like this. I actually want it to go through and do this in a really agentic method. So that's why we're using LangGraph for this project. Where you can go through and actively do thinking. Eventually, way down the line, it'll have a human in the loop feature where if it gets stuck, it can ask for help. But in theory, what should happen is we can give it some information about the context of the challenge. Like, hey, here's the IP address space. Here's some basic user credentials when we get to Active Directory. Eventually, I cannot wait for that. I can't wait to throw this against like Game of Active Directory and have it go through and do exploits on that. and have a lot of fun with it. But also, we're sitting here, we're coding it up, and we're not doing this vibe code style, because I'm not going to learn Python if I'm just sitting here, you know, vibing out on it. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to copy a little bit of the logic here from our recon agent. I really should make this, because this code is so similar to what we're doing. I really should kind of try to parameterize this, but I just haven't yet. I use the V word. That's right. That's right.
Vibe.
No vibe coding. Nope, this is a vibe-free environment. Let me take this. I'm going to use a little bit of the logic from the recon agent. And we're going to sit here, we're going to mess with this just a wee bit. Let's see if it makes any sense here. So we define our language model, which actually that makes sense. We don't have LLM defined because LLM actually comes from up here. So we do need a little bit of bootstrapping code up here to set this up. So let's come drop this down right here. We need to do some imports. That will be import from utils. Actually, I got the right import. From utils configuration, yes. And then we need to import the tool node from LangGraph. Good there. Okay. All right, so we have our setup right here. Define this in our task string. All right, cool. Is there any command where I can check what you're working on? There is not, but I will get you the repo. It's real easy. It's just up on GitHub. I should make that though, like a exclamation point project command. And I'm super creative with my name, so this is literally just called Hack the Bot, because it was designed. It's supposed to be a hacking bot designed to play Hack the Box and try hack me. But there's the code for it. I will go through and I'll set up sometime this week if I can get time, I'll set up the actual instructions like, hey, here's how you get started with it. Because there is another dependency that you need on top of this called robo pages where you come through. But even then, some of the robo pages stuff has already been modified. So I'll have to put the modifications in here too. Hey, Mutant, thanks for coming online, man. And actually, I had a coworker who wanted to take a look at it, and then I realized I had to tell him, "Hey, by the way, wait till I finish the setup instructions in here, because not only is it using another dependent tool called RoboPages, but it also the RoboPages actual YAML files have been customized, and they're not in here. So well, that's our mermaid diagram. Got it. No, not that. What is in this notes thing here? Here. So first thing we do is we look for our exploitation task. So, and this would be exploit instead. Then we're going to go and get our new task. We have that defined in utils. And then we see if the task is assigned to this exploits. Is that the exploit? It kind of is. It came out before Anthropic released the MCP stuff, but it's very similar. So it's and if you want to see Robo Pages, I will drop the link to that as well. This is the tool here. This was like a first attempt to have a tool server set up where you could define all the tools as YAML files and have them all execute inside Docker containers. You can define how the Docker containers are set up, and it will, from those YAML files, present them to your system to be able to import them as tools. So there is a custom integration built into Hack the Bot for that. Still waiting for them to get to this one. This was the feature request I had sent in. No, you're good, man. RoboPages is a really cool tool, though. It was pre-MCP, though. So all it does is you do a GET request over to it. When the server starts up, it reads all the YAML files, it organizes them, and then presents it as basically a giant JSON. And there's different flavors that you can request it in. Some that are more helpful for like OpenAI or for rigging or for Nerve, different like AI frameworks. And so what it did is built an integration for LangChain to use it. So it builds them all, prepares them all as LangChain tools, and then we can then present them to the language model to allow it to call those tools. So the really only super interesting piece of this that might be helpful for other folks as it sits is this right here, the LangChain RoboPages integration, where it comes through and it says, hey, this is how we're going to get all the data from RoboPages, import it over, and present it as tools. And then literally all we have to do is we define a RoboPages object, we run get tools, we've got it, and bam. Now we've got a list of all the tools that are available that we can send to the language model. And so one of the things I did is they've got quite a bit of tools in the RoboPages repository. There's two repos of this. There's the RoboPages repo, which is all the YAML files and the Docker files. And then there's the RoboPages CLI, which is the actual code to run the server. What I did is I went and I stripped out a whole bunch of the RoboPages YAML files, stuff that we didn't need. And then I I'm using that kind of custom set, and they've been a little bit customized for this. That customization is not documented at all. I have to go through and recheck it. So eventually I'll have to go refix those too. Yeah, this is a very early stage project. So I basically just work on it on stream. I come in, have a fun time. So I get anywhere from 6 to 9 hours a week working on it. Hang on one sec, guys. I gotta double check something. Okay, yeah, it's still offline. Sorry, one of my stream monitors was saying something was offline, but it's not. It's just a false positive. False negative, I guess. Let's see. So I'm just stepping through the logic here real quick, make sure this actually makes sense. All it's doing here is it's looking for the tasking workflow, making sure that these tasks in here actually have been assigned to this agent. Let's see. Let's go ahead and import the AI message primitive. All right, so this should be exploit. Make sure that the task is assigned to exploit. If the task is working, then it should route it over to... Actually, this will be a little bit different. I do want to do some of these, but there should be no pre-flight checks for exploitation tasks. Yes, so maybe. I'm not sure, actually. I'll have to think about that. I actually had considered having a separate tasking queue set up for the exploitation agent where it has a slightly modified version of the state table, where it has one additional field where it can understand and basically work on trial and error for the exploits. Because that's really what exploitation comes down to a lot of times, is a little bit of trial and error. You do a little bit of test, you see what works, you're kind of probing defenses a little bit, and then eventually you get enough of the puzzle pieces together where you think, hey, I'm pretty sure I might be able to get an exploit working this way. One sec. I have a part-time job where I have a lot, Hey, TSX999. Thanks for coming online, bro. Happy Sunday. I have some part-time job where I have a lot of ordered LLM API calls with hacky implementation, so I was also thinking of checking out LangGraph, but I hated LangChain, so I'm not sure yet. LangChain was not as useful as I think LangGraph is. I mean, the two are kind of built on top of each other, right? LangChain's not too bad, though. I mean, LangChain works really if you're trying to implement a couple of language model calls into a deterministic program, versus LangGraph is really designed to make an agentic system. So what do I mean by that? Here, this might be like a defined workflow, something you could just handle in LangChain, right? It's very linear. It goes like this. Versus something like if I come over to Stinger, right? This is everything we've got for Stinger happening here, where we have a recon, an enumeration, we have an exploitation agent, which is brand new. That's why it doesn't do this. But then we've got all these different workflows where these things could be handed off to one another, right? And so it executes this entire workflow. Even this is still fairly linear, but we've got things like this enum validator. The validator node comes through and sees, hey, did the task we just performed, the tool call or whatever, did it actually work? But also we have a code in here to do a pre-flight check where it says, hey, we're trying to answer a question or address a task about this host. Do we have data on this host, and have we done the pre-flight check? If not, and we do have the data, send it down to validator to see, can we answer the task and complete it before we do any tool calls? So first thing the enum agent does is say, hey, let's check if we have a pre-flight check. If it doesn't, then cool. The next thing it should do is, after we get to more complicated examples, this actually should loop a couple of times in here that says, hey, by the way, we can't answer this. And eventually I'm looking forward to that part, because we'll have to add additional logic that says, by the way, we already tried this tool and it didn't work. So these are the tools that have failed in the past. Yeah, the studio is free. If you're running on Mac, you can actually run it locally. Otherwise, what you do is you run this actually as part of the LangGraph dev server. So you run it as a dev server in here, and then it would do a little bit of port forward in, WebSocket magic, where this actually should just be connecting to a local web server. I believe just on WebSockets. But this is actually running on my streaming computer. This is actually running in my lab environment. So I've got some port forwarding set up to get it back and forth from here. But here, I'll give you an example. Like if I kill this server, what I run is just this LangGraph. I know it's really tiny. Let me see if can I blow it up? No, can't make it any bigger in here. That's what she said. You run this LangGraph dev server, you pass it in whatever the studio config is here. In this case, I've got multiple graphs configured. But when you run this, it'll just go ahead and compile everything, get it up and running, and it will load a login for you here. And you can just run it directly. I'm doing it a little bit differently, where I've got it port forwarded over to my streaming computer, where I can run it in a local browser and it's easier to interact with rather than trying to do it over the remote desktop. Yeah, so this is called the LangGraph Studio, and it's all built in as part of their Langsmith environment. So I really like it because, like I said, I can come through and I can see every call made. It even breaks it down by the agent, right? So we start with the whole Stinger graph. Comes through, we get everything that it did in the recon agent, and then we see it goes back over to Stinger, hands it off to the enumeration agent, it does everything, and eventually down here we'll see it's going to hand it off to the exploitation agent, and we'll be able to see everything it's doing. Ooh, I just realized. Oh no, the machine expired. Dang it, I should have set a timer for that. Yeah, if you do it on your Mac, you can run it locally. Otherwise, if you're doing it on a Windows like I am, you've got to run it through the web interface. That's it, guys. I got to step away for 1 sec. I'll be right back. Oh, TSX, I saw your question. Go ahead and ask it, man, and I will get back to it as soon as I get back. Alrighty, I'm back. I'm back. Let's see, did our machine start back up? It did. Okay. Now, unfortunately, what that means, back over here, update this. You know what I wonder? I wonder if I can just go through and make that modification quick, like in the pickle file. Yeah, it's fine. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rerun this real fast, let it run in the background. Minimize these real quick. Okay. Throw this in here. I'm gonna take out this part. Don't need to do the last part. Yep, that should. All right, and run it. Now, one error that does come up in here that's kind of a pain is occasionally we'll get an overload error from Anthropic saying the API is overloaded. I do need to go add some error checking to that. Basically just tell it, hey, wait 5 seconds and try again. All right, I'm just gonna let that run for a second. Yeah, I know, I gotta do the error checking. Yeah. Okay. Let me finish running through this real quick. No pre-flight check yet. Then what we're going to do in target IP has an entry in the host table. I'm gonna modify all of this real fast. Oh, hey, Oni. Yeah, but no, I took last night off from streaming because I was just I was exhausted. And then, so I got some extra sleep. And then today, even, I still took like a 2-hour nap with my kiddos. So, I'm trying to be a better programmer. Error checking, I'll do that later. You know what, Band? I don't need your attitude, sir. Sir. I got this list of all this stuff for the stream. That's right, I do. And occasionally, I look over here, and I will see it, and I'll be like, eh. So let me go ahead and do that. I don't know if I even need that. Let's see. So there should be no pre-flight check. We're not concerned about that for the exploitation agent. Look at something real quick here. Where's our state table? Let's just list of states. Let me look at the host state real fast. So the host only has a couple things in here. It's IP address, host name, ports. I'm thinking about adding an additional list in here. Adding something to the host table that's like... And I'm trying to think how to do this. Basically adding a command to get single command execution on here. Did you enjoy your day today? Yes, we had a very chill out day today. Basically just hung out with the kids, watched TV. That's about it. That's our chill out days. I know that for a lot of folks, that's like the typical Saturday, but no, usually we're really busy and running around doing stuff. Yeah, Ben, that's what I'm thinking about doing. So I'm thinking about just adding something in here where we could provide some kind of instructions for getting like single command execution. So basically, if this would be the equivalent to the pre-flight check over in. Actually, this would allow us to do a pre-flight check for the exploitation test. So, say for example, we came across a host that we already had exploited. We don't want to re-exploit it, right? So what we could do is, I'm trying to think how to add that though. Well, that would be like an example of something to do, right? Cat the etc pass wd file. What I'm more thinking of is like, here is like a command you could run to get that. Dang it. No, Oni, I completely forgot to go buy Vitamin Shop. When's that sale end? Because I do need to, I do like to go cash in on that sale whenever I can. By the way, for anybody else, I threw my Jocko can away. I didn't even do the plug. Oh well. Yeah, what I'm thinking about here, Band, is could I have something stored in the host table that basically would, and let's say for example, we hit a host, we get basic code execution on it. What is something I could store in the host table that says here is a reproducible command to go get that basic code execution again? I know, right? I'm not bringing my A game tonight, Band. Ignoring the to-do list, talking about pickles, skipping error checking, and I didn't do the not sponsored by Jocko yet. Just losing it. Vitamin Shop swaps out energy drinks every week. Oh, gotcha. I'm thinking about, for this host entry, literally just calling it maybe call it like the initial access exploit, and literally just make it a string of something like this is a command, this is a string that's a Python command that could be run. That's what I'm thinking. Oh, wait, this was going on all week and you didn't tell me till last night? Bruh. Kill me, Smalls. I guess we could try that actually. I hear excuses, Oni. I don't hear excuses. I didn't know. Well, just making excuses, bro. Actually, yeah, this actually might work. Just call it the initial access exploit. Yeah, actually, I kind of like that idea. Because we have a Python we have basically a Python exec function that we could use in Robo Pages. But then what we could do is we could go plug in and basically run a series of commands that way to get our C2 agent on board, right? And this could be the same thing for. This could be the same thing for even for like the web shell, right? The initial access exploit could be, hey, we're going to go upload a web shell. We'll use that and then get it on board. Now, I think when we do that though, when we do get stub host, we'll have to go modify that. Yeah, do that. So we'll do. That's just going to be a blank string there. I'm sure by adding something here, I'm probably going to have flubbed that. But getting the stub host, by breaking that out, I think we're good. Let's see. Exploit agent, yeah. Bring this back over. I kind of like this idea where, hey, we do the pre-flight check, we see if we have host data. Yeah, actually, this would work because then we'll see if we have an initial access exploit. One thing I did in the past, I'm not sure exactly what you're thinking, but I wrote some code to interact with the command shells via agents. So in my case, it was Meterpreter since it was simple, and just using that to do things like various MITRE attack payloads. I mean, we might get to that in the future. What I'm thinking of for the exploit agent, it's going to have two primary tasks that it has to do, right? Create a reproducible exploit where we could get command execution on the system, and then get a C2 payload on the system to execute so that we can hand it off to Mythic. Yeah, I was planning on doing everything with Mythic though, because Mythic is so extensible that eventually if we needed to add something to Mythic, we could just go code it up. It's like interacting with a simple command shell. Yeah. Let me look at something in the Python code. The Python exec. That's going to be 4? No, that'll be over 2. 3? Where did I put that? Oh, wait, it's over in 1. That's where it is. Let me see. I think I had this in here. Yep. I think it's in coding. Python, and then we had like a Python exec in here. Yeah, that's it. Let me look at this exec YAML real fast. All it does is take in the code example. So, okay, cool. So it does host networking, which is perfect. Okay. So the idea would be the victim machine is already running some kind of command shell, and we just want to interact to upload our C2 agent. I mean, and that might be something doable as well. So, for example, eventually, you just gave me an idea. One thing that might happen here is we take this initial access exploit and make it to where it could be a different type. Instead of just being a string, we could also make it like a function or something where we could literally have that on standby, where it does have like a interpreter like background shell to it, like you're talking about, and then be able to send commands over to it. That'd be interesting to me. My idea was store something here like a Python script, and then inside that Python script, we could then say, okay, cool, we can pass that over to the Python exec tool call, and then just have it run that every time we needed to execute a command. So it would send it to RoboPages, spin up the Docker container, execute in the Python environment, fire it off, and then we get that kind of single command execution. In fact, even on this one, yeah. See, I'm not worried about being C2 agnostic. I really actually literally want this one to run through Mythic. So C2 agnostic is not a concern for me. But I do like that idea though. It would give you flexibility, but I don't think there's anything you can do that you cannot do in Mythic that you cannot do in others. Yeah. It might be desirable in the future. It might be that's going to be a feature update that has to come through later on. I do kind of like that idea, though, the one you just given me, where, hey, if we have some kind of shell wrangler in here, and we can execute it to where we can get a shell on the system. Might be an interesting idea. Or just do it now because it's simple. Not simple. The post-exploitation agent's going to be the second biggest pain in the butt. The first one being the exploitation agent, which is what I'm working on right now. But I think by adding this, by adding that initial access payload, it actually will allow it to come through and run that. All right, honey, have a good night, man. Thanks for stopping by, dude. Let's see. Let me change that too. That should be exploit here. So we check to see, do we have any working tasks? Let's see, task string, get the task. Reworking task, okay, that all looks good. Oh, that's right, we had this wrapped in here. So we see if this task is validated or if the state is new. Let's see, let's change this. Oh, I need to change this too. This should be, instead of recon agent, this should be exploit agent. Just refactoring a few of these things. That too will be close. Exploit, exploit. What's funny is that even says enum agent here. This is all kinds of backups. So I think I copied that from the recon agent. Let me go fix that. I just realized that's not correct. Yeah, it says it's sending it from the enum agent instead of from the... I should format string that. Jeez. And that's what I probably should have done. I was thinking you start with a command shell as the lowest level payload, then you go from there to load whatever C2 agent. That's true. The kicker here, though, is that I'm thinking about this from the CTF context, right? And a lot of these are, the initial access is running through, what is it? Through a web shell, right? So, I mean, we could potentially do that if we had a reverse shell from the web shell come back, right? So the web shell basically runs like a reverse shell command back to us that we do. Oh, just echo the bytes to agent.exe? Yeah. I mean, that's true. We could do that. I was actually planning on, in this case, like if it's a web exploit, actually have it go request from the exploit agent. So the exploit agent will have at least one sub-agent I can think of, right? Similar to command stages and Metasploit, yeah. But there should be a cross-link between the exploit and the post-ex agent where it actually goes and requests a particular type of payload from Mythic. Like if it's a web payload, we go request like a PHP payload from Mythic, and it should generate an Arachne payload we send down. Or you could simply wget or curl the file. Yeah, I mean, that sounds real simple, but then now we've got to have a web server set up where we could serve files to the system, right? Which that wouldn't be such a big deal if I'd already set up the Docker management portion of the program, because eventually Stinger, whatever is going to call the Stinger agent, like the main.py file, that would actually load up, what is it? I'm trying to think. That would load up like RoboPages. Eventually, RoboPages server will be managed by the system here. Let me think about this. Let me double check this. So in past life, we had a microservice dedicated for creating an exploitation infrastructure. I believe it. Guess what I don't have, nor do I really feel the great need to build right now. Let's see. I'm gonna think about, I might have to just come through and rework all of this logic, because the pre-flight check kind of works, which is basically we shouldn't even have to, if there's a pre-flight check, what we should do is check, hey, do we have an initial access exploit in here? Exploit needs some kind of infrastructure like an LDAP server for like Log4Shell. We'd have the exploit request from the infrastructure microservice and be stood up. Oh, nice. Yeah, eventually the exploitation agent will also have, we'll tie it into where it can go pull down, you know, CVE's examples from ExploitDB and try to get those to run. That'll be an interesting task though, because they can be written in so many different languages, especially some of the older ones. You're talking about they can be written in Bash, they can be written in Python, they can be written in, sometimes they're just written in C, and sometimes they're written in like really janky C, where it's like, hey, here's just a portion of the code. It has like none of the additional scaffolding around it. Yeah. That's where the task, and this is something I was thinking about in here, Ben. I don't think you were in here for this, but it's that was a little drawing from earlier. But one thing I was actually thinking about here was basically doing what I was calling speculative tasking. No boy, thanks for coming online, man. Essentially, the exploitation agent should be able to create a task list to explore kind of like exploitation paths, and part of that would be like those requirements for those really complex exploits. And then basically have a path stepper where the language model call examines what's the current path, right? And so like an example path would be something like this. And basically just make it like an ordered list where, hey, each entry in the list is like a new step in the attack path. But then whenever it comes down, essentially have it say, okay, cool, well, we've reached this point in the attack path. What might be next that we could do? And kind of make it a little bit graph, a little bit, you know, Bloodhound-esque. Hey, no problem, man. Dude, wisdom. I pray for wisdom. I don't know if I actually ever get it though.
I'd try, dude.
But that's actually one of the cool things about this challenge is trying to, and it's one that a lot of people have gone through before. There's lots of automated pen testing suites out there, and they all have different approaches to this and ways that they're handling it. I have a lot of fun with this because I'm trying to think about how do I structure what I do whenever I'm performing exploitation on a system. Which is funny because I'm looking at this as like, hey, we're going to get some exploit code and we're going to do something. In reality, if you really want to think about it, this is not in this example in RootMe, this is not an exploit. This is a misconfiguration. So a lot of times when people talk about exploits, really it's you're abusing the configuration on the system. One thing though is when you do call it done, since it's basically a recursive thing. Yeah, so it should be done essentially once it verifies that it can get code execution on the system. Can it read etc password? Can it identify its user ID? Things like that. So we'll have some kind of check in there. It's like, hey, if we pass these kind of checks, we can do that. Lateral movement is going to be an interesting one, Band. I'm not quite sure how to handle that yet. That is going to be very interesting to think about because we're going to have to be doing proxying and stuff. So we're going to have something in there. There's probably going to be like a proxy agent that says, hey, by the way, we now want to start attacking this target and we need to laterally move through this one. So then we'll have another agent set up where it will set up and handle the proxies and it can answer questions about them. If you got an SSH key or some AWS crits. Yeah, exactly. We could even do that too. So, I mean, the initial access exploit, the way I kind of look at it is we could either just have the reason why I was thinking this could be like a Python script that gets developed hopefully by the exploitation agent through a refining process, comes through and says, okay, cool, here's the script that we can run to get initial exploitation, right? And if it's SSH, let's say we stole an SSH key, right? Cool, that SSH key gets embedded into that Python script and then just sent over to the Docker container for it. Or if it's, hey, we need to upload a web shell, it's like, all right, cool. So we create a name of the web shell, we assign it some randomized name, and then we say, okay, cool, the reproducible step here is, maybe in the Python script, we tell it, hey, you should check to see if the script already exists, and if it does, then send a command to it to validate that it's working. Like I said, there's so many micro tasks that go into exploitation. If you just take the direct path, right? If you're not sitting there bushwhacking and like cutting the path to the exploit, you realize where all the pitfalls actually are versus taking the path someone's already carved out for you. Think of it like you're cutting a path through a trail. There might be like a 50-foot sheer cliff off to your right, but you don't see it because all the bushes are there and you're just following the trail. Versus you're sitting there trying to actually bushwhack and cut the trail yourself. You're finding out where all the pitfalls are, even though now you've got a nice trail because you're the one who cut it. One of the big takeaways here, though, is that automated solutions will never test anything. I mean, heck, humans will never test anything, man. I've come up with like some really ridiculously simple solutions to problems that I don't think any automated system would have come up with because it was too, to be quite frank, it was too stupid to try. It's like, hey, I wonder. Come in there, try it, bam, got it. Sometimes it's really just think dumber. And that's the way I explain to folks, like, hey, when you're doing exploitation, think of the dumbest thing you could do and test it, and then just slowly add complexity. Don't start with something really elaborate and complex. Yeah, this is what I was thinking about the entire flight up to Chicago last week, was how are we going to kind of work through this and step through it? So it's going to have to be able to take the output that comes back and determine like, hey, was the exploit successful or was it an error? And we're going to have like a recursive loop in here where it checks on it. Once I found an NTDS dip file sitting on a file share, bro. One of the admins, when they were building out their new DC, it had been sitting there for 4 years. That's so bad. That's why it cracks me up whenever you see like some of the CTFs and you see like a script with some embedded passwords on an open network share in a CTF environment. It was like, that's not real. I'm like, bro, that is more real than I am comfortable admitting. That is so much more real. Like I said, when it comes to exploitation, sometimes it's think dumber and then add complexity. What's the single, simplest, dumbest thing you could try and then go from there? They had pen tests like 4 times a year and no one found that. Well, I mean, at the same time, too, there's so many branching paths you can go down to test things. I'm not surprised. I'm slightly surprised no one found it, especially if it was like a straight up. If it was a very open network share or even one that had like basics to it, I might not have found that either, because if I already have an attack path I can kind of work down, and network shares don't seem to be a critical part of that, I might not even test that. Because if I've got something where, let's say I pop a system and then I can start pivoting through the network, I'm going to start going down that path. I'm not going to go look at network shares unless I have a particular reason for it. I mean, it's a little bit different if you have an objective versus like what I call a smash and grab pen test, where it's, hey, just here's your scope, go in and find everything you can. That's a little bit different situation. Echelon X-Ray, what's up, man? Best and most beautiful solution is the one that most clearly fits the problem. Like minimal, no edge cases. So I think your think dumber approach is one which was tried to seek these solutions. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Oh, but these were file shares actually on the DC. Oh, that's a different story. I guess I assumed this was some random file share on like an admin box or something, or like on some server that seemed innocuous. Oh, if this is on a domain controller, yeah, that should have totally been caught. Because that's one of the first things I'm going to go look at after I get my base set of user creds. Because, by the way, guys, if y'all didn't know this, most of the file shares that are on a domain controller, they're just usually world readable to any domain user. So that's Terabad, man. All right, let's see here. Unfortunately, I think that's where I got to call it a night for tonight because it is 11 o'clock Central. Let's see. Who can we go raid out to? We got that's available. Let's see if any of our stream buddies are on right now. Raytheon's always on doing PC builds. Yeah, Diego, have a good night, man. Thanks everybody for coming by and stopping by. If you have a raid suggestion, feel free to shout them out. I am totally open for suggestions. Let's see. Nerdduino's on, and I always do like raiding him because I am a sucker for space stuff. Oh wait, Hacker Witch is on. What is she working on? Let me see. The Unfinished Swan. Is this a game that she's doing? I'm sure. I'll you go on Discord real quick. Good idea. Have pass your way. Okay, man. No problem, dude. Yep. I tell you what. We'll go right over to Nerdduino because I do like him. He's such a cool guy. I tell you what. Hold on. Before I do that, let me go see who else is in software and game. Let's see what anybody else is doing. Hey, you know what? This person's got their affiliate. So let's go right there because they're working on like, hey, they're celebrating. Okay. Yeah, we'll go right up to them. I do like to kind of like show some love to this software and game dev folks too. That's what we're doing. All right, guys. That is unfortunately where I've got to end it for tonight because I do actually need to get some sleep. Thanks for coming by, stopping out, hanging out. We'll work more on the exploitation agent. We'll get it up and running. Hopefully, where we can start getting ideas about what it's doing. We'll play with our pickles on stream some more, giggity, and we'll kick it up again. Tuesday night, I'm going to start back doing the news stream, so we will do Hacker News on Tuesdays. I've been putting it off because I just didn't have the brain power for it. I'm going to try and get back into that this coming Tuesday. So we will have Tuesday night news stream. We'll do all the fun Hacker News for the week. We'll go through last weekend's security and have a great time with it. But tomorrow's Monday. No cases of the Mondays. Go out there, kick ass. Don't drag ass. Kick it so you can enjoy your Friday and your weekend. That's my advice to you. Also, make sure read-only Fridays are a thing. They're very important. But, oh, I forgot one more thing. I love you. Peace.